Okay, hey everybody. Let me move my thing here, so my microphone, so you guys can hear me. So today we're going to do another Filemaker series on property management. So I'm not really sure exactly how deep we can get into this property management thing, but one of the things that I did while you guys were not watching, actually, is pretty quick and easy. This property code right down here at the bottom, as you see, it's kind of close to looking at media, but there's property code. So if you go into manage your database on this page, and you go into and you find the property code field, you need to make it an auto enter serial number. And what I did is, if you just double click on it, I did serial number and I started it on 1000, because 1000 it gives you a 4-digit number that will last for 8,999 more numbers. So if I had 8,999 more properties, they would all have a 4-digit number. So if you have more than that, then you might need to make it a 5-digit number. But I like to keep my numbers all the same because I'm kind of OCD about that just a little bit. But what that does is it gives us a number that we can reference, which is kind of a big deal. And we can say, okay. Now, one of the other things that I wanted to get to pretty quick was in our tables, I wanted to create a new set of tables, and then I wanted to link those tables, or I wanted to link this table and the fields to that front page. And let me show you how we do that. Now, this is kind of interesting, but we'll just make it happen as it does. So we're going to name this, of course, you figure I'm doing this right off the seat of my pants. So we're kind of doing this very, very quickly. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to keep track of the last time that the individual paid. So if I'm on my home screen, I can look and I can say this property was paid for, or the rent was paid on the 1st of last month, or whatever the case might be. So it was actually paid a certain time. So I'm going to just call this let's say paid data. And we'll go ahead and create that. Now, in the paid data field, when we get to the fields, depending on how many properties you have, that's kind of the big thing. So we need to figure out how many properties you have, and then we can start to select those properties. So if we go into our field names, we can begin to create, and you want these to be either a text, a number, a calculation. You can actually have them as a timestamp. You can have them as a date if you want as well. Text works the best for me. I like the text because text will cover anything. So anything that you want to put into that field, text will do it. So I'm going to use a text for all of these. But what I want to do is I want to start off, and you can do any single thing that you want to, but you're going to have a lot of them, a lot of these fields. So what you can do is you can name them after each property code number. So if I typed in 1000, I could create that one. No, apparently you can't. 1001. Create. The selected name cannot be easily used in a calculation form because it is, okay, so you could, because it says 1000, that's the reason why. So I've never used numbers before in my fields. Never. It's always been a name. It's always been a name. So let's just do this. Let's just do PN, and then we'll do 1000, and we'll just go ahead and change it. And that way it's a property number, so we know that it's a property number. I was really hoping that this would be easier to do, but apparently it's not. So we'll change that one as well. And then we'll do PN 1002, we'll create it. PN 1003, and we'll create it. And we'll just keep doing this for as many properties as you have. We're going to stop here at probably about 7 or 8. Just go through them real quick. So we'll create 8 of them. So now we have these numbers. Now what we can do with these numbers is we could say, okay, because we're pretty much done with that at this very moment. But we do need to go back to our home page. So if we go to the Property Inc. page, here we are. Here's our tabs. Remember we set up our tabs and we had the trust. And John Smith had all of these. And you can, and I'm pretty sure that I expressed to you guys that this can easily be changed. So if you want to, if you double click on this, you can change the name of it. So this one can be 401 Cedar Street. This one can be, 405 Cedar Street. Whatever the case is. Or if you have apartments, you can also do, this one is apartment, you don't even have to write them out. You can just write in the number. So let's say, let's say 101, and then we'll make this one 102, just so I can kind of show you guys really quick how this works. So 101, so what you could do is you could have this, I don't know why it's doing that, but grab this one, press shift, hold this one. So now I've got them both. I can move them both, put them over here, and I can say, this is, I can add a text, apartments, and then I can say West Apple Street. And then I can take this thing and I can move it over here and line them all up, get them dead center, whatever the case might be. I don't know why it doesn't want to line them, but whatever. Move it slightly. There. Okay, so you can also line all of these up easily too. Now, when you're inside of a box like this, it does make it more difficult. You can't just grab them because you see if you touch it anywhere, you're going to move the whole box. So what you need to do is press the first one, hold the shift button down, press the second one, and still holding the shift button down, press the third one. Now all three of those are bound, so I can move all three of those wherever I want to inside of this field. Now if I go into my inspector, my field inspector, I can go into the position of them, and I can line them all up on centers. So they'll all now be perfectly lined up if I want. If you're like me and you want things to be perfect. But now it's YT, how the heck are you? It's so good to see you. So now we have these apartments, and we have an address, and we have the different apartment numbers. So if you had West Apple Apartments and you had a bunch of different numbers, like in this case, you could have like a bunch of different numbers. But we're going to start with the apartments, the Apple Apartments is what we're going to do. So what I want to do with the Apple Apartments is I want to go into this one, and I'm looking at its overall appearance. So from the top in the appearance, and I hope you guys can see this, but there is what's called an advanced graphic box right here. And what this allows us to do is it allows us to change where the number resides or where the text resides inside of the box. So what we can do is we can, like, if I grab this box and I make it longer, see how it kind of stays in the center? The number stays in the center. Well, I can change that. I can change it to wherever I want to. So if I'm going to Control Z that because I don't want it to be there. But I do want these to be a little bit longer. So if I go into the position, it'll show me that the height is 54, and I can change it to 55 just because I like round numbers. Click anywhere else. So now this one's 55. Click on this one, I can put it in 55. Click on the other one, and so now they're both the same. And I move this down just a little tiny bit. So if I'm on this one and I go into the appearance, because it's kind of a big deal, I need to put this number higher so that I can put in a field below it, right? So if I take and if I lessen this, you'll see how the number raised. But it didn't raise all the way up. It only went a certain distance. And then I also have these side buffers, the buffers on the side, which are set at 11 currently, but I can always change those. You can change those to 0. And then that really helps kind of, if you've got something long, you printed something in there like apartments, it takes up the whole space. But if we increase the bottom one now that we have it at 0, if we increase the bottom one, see how it raised it way up? So it raises it way up there. And now that we've got that up there, we now see that The top is at 0 and the bottom is at 12. And if we exit our layout, there it is. So re-edit the layout, grab this one. We need this to be at 0 and we need this to be at 12. I'm going to zero out all these other ones. Okay, so now they're all even. Now the cool thing is you can, and if you're doing this, once you get a box set, this is, I may have like glanced over this the other day, but once you get a box set, what you can do is you can grab the box and you can hold the control button and then just drag another one and then let go of the control button and let go of the box. Hold the control button, move it down, and let go of the control button, let go of the right-click mouse button. And so we've now created a bunch of these, and we can just keep continuing to create them. And if we want to, we can select it, press and hold the shift, select all 4 of them, press and hold the control button, move them over, let go of the control button, let go of the right-click button. So now it's going to add, we're going to have a lot of them. So now we can actually change what each one does or says or whatever the case might be. So we're going to go into our manage our database. Now, if you remember correctly, we did have, in our Properties Inc., we had there was no fields at all. Well, we kind of need an ID field and an IDFK field. So in a ID foreign key field. So in this one, we'll put in the ID field, and we're going to just say that it's a number, and we'll create it. And then this number will be on creation, or it'll be a serial number starting with 1. So we'll just call that good. And then in our paid data, this is where we need our IDFK. So IDFK. And this will all make sense later on. And we'll create it. So now when we go into our relationships, what we can do is we have the Property Inc. over here. See it? It's yellow. And I'm going to go ahead and move these over here because I was just showing you guys before that we can make these do whatever we want to. I'm going to grab this one, and if we elongate it, which we might have to do. So here's our ID and our IDFK. So we're going to connect the two of those together, our ID and our IDFK. And then we're just going to say allow to create records and or destroy records. Just allow the creation of records in each one. That's all that you truly need. Now I think what we'll do is we're going to put these side by side of each other. And then we'll put these side by side of each other. Just because we can. Just grab them all, move them all up here. Move them all up. There. Now, I have spent hours, believe you me, I have spent hours making these perfect before in the past. And you can spend hours making these perfect. One thing you don't want to do is you don't want to grab them all and then tell them that you want to align them all on a thing. So if you grab these two, you just make a line go through these two. You can align them on the left edges. You grab these two. You can align them on the left edges. And now they're relatively aligned, except for this one. Now you say align on the top edges. And this one will align on the bottom edges. So now they are perfectly spaced of each other, basically. So this makes a perfect square box for them, for those. So now that we've done that, now what we can do is we can now start to add some of our fields. So I'm going to press the OK button. I know you guys can't see it, but because it's behind me, but I'll bring it up so you guys can see it. But we'll press the OK button and we'll call that good. Now if we go into our field picker, and currently it'll say the only thing in there is the ID number. So if we just do a no labels, we can bring the ID number out. We put it any dang where that we want to, and we can make it invisible, so it's not that big of a deal. If we went into our field inspector, we clicked on this box, we would have no fill and no line. And the text, actually, we could change the color of the text to be the exact same color as the header, or one color, one shade different. So I'll just change it to one shade. So now you won't really be able to see it. It'll be almost nearly invisible. You don't actually have a record until you create that record, if that makes sense. So here we have it. And now what we need to do is we need to go into, this little drop down. We can go into related tables, which is property data. And so this first one, it's PN100. We don't need, or PN1000, so we don't need anything to do with that. We're just going to drag it out here under the field. And we're actually going to make this fit inside, or fit even with our little button thing. And we're going to tell it to center that. And then we're going to drop it all the way down to the bottom. And then with the same thing that what we're going to do is we're going to, now I will admit, I can take this whole box if I wanted to and do the control trick and drag it and create it. But now you're just kind of confusing things. So if you're going to do it right. And in this case, you need to actually do individual ones. And yeah, it's going to take you a while to set it up, but it's all just rote. You're just going to continue to do it over and over and over again. So you'll get very good at it, and you'll be done in no time flat. It won't really take that long to actually do it. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this field. Now remember, you want to use one field per button and relate it to your record, because that's kind of the big thing. So in this case, I'm just going to do, I'll do like that. I'll do a couple of them. So I'll do 1001, and I'll do this 1002 one right here. Bring it to the end, match it to that size, lift it so it's just at the bottom, and then we're going to center the data in it. And now we'll just say, okay. So if we click on this and we go into our field inspector, we could do the same thing that we just did before. We could say we don't want any color, and we want no lines around it. And then when we want it to say something, we actually want it to be a bright yellow color, because we really want it to kind of just stick out. Let's make it just looking for the right yellow color. So if I go this color, okay. And then we're just going to do the same thing with this one. We're going to say this one has no color and no line, and the text that's in the box is going to be a bright yellow. And so now if we exit the layout, you'll see that there's nothing in that. It doesn't even exist. It's not even there. No records exist. Yes, I know. So, because we haven't created any records. Smart plan for us, right? So we haven't created any records. So what that does is it gives us the ability to put something in that box, because this is like a big deal. So later on, when someone does pay this, we can then put the last pay date. Now, I did have a person say, well, can't you just put paid in there? Well, you can, but what happens 30 days from then when you have another one that has, because it's going to continue to say paid until you tell it not to say paid. Now you can set up a script, and on the 17th or the 18th or the 19th of every single month, you can have that script run and erase all of the ones that say paid. But then what if you have someone that's really, really late and they haven't paid their rent? So it's better to just keep track of when they paid their rent, right? So this was paid on this day. This is the last day that someone paid their rent. That's what I'm thinking about. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into our if we go into the base data. So we have base data, and we have the base portal, and we have the properties. This is kind of the one where all of our information actually comes from. And if we do, if we manage our database, we will see that in the fields, our base data is where all the information, so we've got the property owner, the location, the street, all the information that you need is right here in this particular one, right? Base data. And we have renter data, which we did nothing on yet. Data center, port, base port. Okay. So base data is the one that we need. So we're going to close that. And we're going to create a new layout. So new layout report. And it's going to be based on base data. And we're just going to call this list view or list. Let's just do list data. We'll do computer. And we want it to be on a list view. And we'll finish it. And so now what you get is this. You just get a list view. But we need to go into our field picker. And we need to figure out what we need, what parts that we do need. So if you have a property, I think how you identify that property first and foremost is through its location. That's kind of the first thing. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to put location up here. And then if you have various cities and states and zips and you figure I've got to add that data, you can add that data into this, but this is going to be very, very full. It's going to be very, very full. So we now have the location. We don't need the address, or we don't need the state, the city, the state, the zip. We don't need the owner's phone number or any of that other neat stuff, or a picture. We do have like you can have the property owner's name or the renter's name, excuse me, if you want to, in there, just so that you can have data. You can say, this is the renter that I have to send a message to because they didn't pay their rent. Okay, so in this particular case, you would put in the renter's first name and or last name and or both names. Either is just fine. For my purposes, I'm just going to put the renter's first name. Shorten it up because, as you can tell, renter first name. Look how many letters is in renter first name, and then renter last name right next to it. And we're going to shorten that one up too. I doubt very much you'll need. I don't know many people that have that many letters in their last name. And then you can either have a phone number if you want to, so you can contact them. You can be like, hey, you did not pay your rent, whatever the case might be. But one of the things that you're going to need big time is the property code, because that property code is kind of a big deal. Now, we do need some other data as well. So we're going to need to know, like, how much is the rent and when was it paid? So, because in this particular instance, what we're going to do is we're going to, when we get this data, edit layout. So here we have a property. We already have a property. We have no first name, we have no last name, and we have no, so let's see. The first name we'll say is John, and the last name is Dorfenhugger. Dorfenhugger. I don't know. I'm just typing things in there, right? But you can tell you have no clue, right? You have no clue what any of this data is. We certainly don't know what this is, right? Because it's just there. So what you may need to do is you may need to edit the layout, and then for this header, if you click on the header and in your inspector, you can actually go into the position, and it says it's 36 high. So we need to kind of make it like, I don't know, 150, and then just click off of it. And now it makes it like giant, or you can make it less giant. So let's go 85. Okay, that's a lot less giant. So now we can actually add some text. We can say that this is the location, property location. And now, so we'll just kind of line that up. And if we press and hold the control button, it'll just copy it. We can say renter first, or renter's name, or whatever the case is. And then got to click off of it, and then you can press and hold the control, because if you don't do that, then it doesn't work. And then we'll have it, this will be, we can just have that code. That's all it needs to say. It doesn't need to say anything else. But some of the other things that you're going to need is you're going to need paid, and we're going to need to know, there's actually a lot of data that we need to know. Like, we need to know, like, the date that it was actually paid. So that's kind of a big deal. And then we're going to need to know a resource. So if we go into if we edit, or we go into manage our database, because we're already on this database, we can actually add a couple of things. So we can add the date. See if I can learn how to spell. And the date we will call just, we can either make it a date, or we can have it a text, and then auto fill that number, or whatever the case might be. But so I'm just going to say date for right now instead of explaining everything. And then I want to have amount rent, and that's going to be a text number. And then I'm going to have I need to have a link. So I'm going to write link, and that is going to be a text as well. But my link, I really want it to be, I want this link to be something different. So if I go into my field picker, my link I'm going to put right at the very end, and I'll explain to you what the link actually is. And it can be as small or as big, it doesn't really matter. Just make it small so it's out of the way. But what the link actually is this link is for the, when you fill in the rent, when the rent has been paid, then it will send a message out to the thing. So the amount of rent paid will be here. And we can also go into, if we click on this manage database thing, you can go straight to the database just like that. So it's pretty quick. So not only do we need to know amount rent, we need to know amount paid. And we'll create that as a text as well. And these two, we can center them. Of course, I'm big into centering them, so property code will also center it. These two, we can go into, if we go into our field inspector, it may and or may not let us do it, but it says as entered. So the only way that we can actually do the amount paid is if they're numbers. So we're going to have to go back into here, and the amount, this amount rent, we need to change it to a number and just say change it. It doesn't matter. It's not going to do anything. And then this one will also be a number, which is amount paid, and we'll change that one. Call it OK. Because we can't make them monetary, which is what I was trying to do. So if we go into the field inspector and you come down here, it says general. We need to make it into currency. And then I know you guys can't see this because it's like all over the page. But fixed number of decimals, which is right at the very top. And then you have to kind of scroll down, and then system settings. That way it keeps the decimal in the right place, and it keeps everything like so you know what it is. So therefore, this one is the amount of rent, the amount that they need to pay. Like if you set the amount, You can also have, you know, when I get to these, and I'm going to tell you guys this like right straight up. When I get to these issues, these problems, these things, I instantaneously go, my mind goes berserkazoid, because let's say you wanted to set up an annual rent increase of 2% or 3% or 5% or whatever the case was. So because you have a property and you need to make money on that property. And so you set up an annual increase in the rent. And with FileMaker, you can actually create that. You can make it do it every year. So on the January 1st, you can come in, you can create a button right here. You can push the button and it will add a certain amount. It'll times every single one of these amount rents, and it'll make them, it's called a loop function, but what it would do is it would basically go through all of the rents and it would change them by 2% or whatever increase that you want to do, which is really super cool. But I did want you guys to know that you can do that, just so you know. That's why I do love this program at times. But so now that these are currency, and if we exit the layout, we can actually come in here and we'll add, let's say $525. We just say 525. We click off it, it instantaneously turns into a deal. So, and then when you have the paid, so if the paid is less than or more than or whatever, so what we'd want to do is we would want to have this work so that once someone paid it, so that if you would come in, like how this is going to work is this code is going to be, let's see, let's exit. Let's just create a new record. So it automatically gave us a code right here. See that, which is what we're looking for, is the code. So now if we edit the layout, we can go in, we can say, grab our code, control, we can say amount due, or monthly rent. Monthly rent. And then we can shift, we can tell it this one, and this one would be amount paid. Okay. We'll just make that center, make this one center. There we go. And now our link. So what our link is our link is it's going to link to our field. So we need to get that link. So let's do that really fast. So if we exit the layout, here we have, so the rent on this place is 6 1/4. So we'll say 6 1/4. And this one is apartment 100. Now just remember, when you're creating these records will be created in other things because they're matched with each other. So when we go to this apartment 100, which we'll create a link, but if we have time, if I'll show you guys how to do that. But right now I'm more interested in showing you how to do the paid part, how to show when something was paid. Does that make sense? So what I'm gonna do for here is I'm gonna create a script as soon as I get the opportunity to create that script. But we need to get the link first. The link is kind of a big deal. So if we go back to our property Inc., and remember that's list data. So if we go back to our property, and we have this one's apartment number 101, right? You guys remember that. Create a new record. So we now have this property 101 that does absolutely nothing, but there is a link for this little window down here, because this is what we want to actually say something, right? Now if we go into edit our property and we click this and we go into our field or inspector, it'll show you the link, display data from paid data PN 1000. So if I just come over here and I left click and drag, I can Control C and then click off. Now I can go to my other one that I was at, exit layout, list data, and I can click on this field and Control V. So now my data is, now I have a link, and that link is to that exact field on that button. And this is what that button does. So this button is, that button is correct or connected to apartment 101. Apartment 101, and it's being rented by Tim. Let's say Tim Telling Ship. I'm just showing you because look how many, look how much you can put in there. It's a small button or it's just a small thing, but look how much information you can put in there. So now if we have the amount paid, you fill in the amount paid, what we'll do is, and remember, we're not even close to done with this. We're just touching little tiny spots as we can get to them. But now if you do the amount paid, we put this number in here. We want it to do something. We want it to log the fact that it was paid and show the date that it was paid and what other information that we need. So we can now create a script based on this particular data. So we can say, if we double click, we edit the deal and we double click on this, it will give us, yes, we did that, yes, we did that. Let's do this. Let's right click on it. And we'll do a conditional set script triggers. That's what we need, is a script trigger. On object exit. So if we click out of it, then it will do something. Right now you can see we have zero scripts. We have not even a single script that we've ever made, not even once. So we need to add one. So let's create a new script. And this new script we're going to call paid date. Paid date. We'll say okay. And now we have this big long thing. So we can say set variables, or if this or if that, or whatever the case might be. But this one's going to be pretty simple because it doesn't really need to do a lot. And I haven't drank any of my coffee forever, so I'm like having this coffee withdrawal syndrome. But what we needed to do is we needed to set a variable. And that variable needs to be that link. So we're just going to call it link. And we'll specify it as link. We'll say okay. And then we want it to, if you want it to, you can have it freeze if you want it to freeze, or you can tell it to just go there. For the case of this, let's say you have several people coming in all at one time and you just want to get rid of it. So we'll just freeze the window. We'll go to a layout. And this layout is going to be your very first one. So it's going to be the property Inc. layout. And then we need to set a field. That's kind of what we need to do. Now we need to set a field. So we're going to set a field, and we're going to set that field This is not correct. Delete it. Set. So you're going to have to actually type in set. So set field by name, set field by, or set field by name. There should be a set field by calculation. Maybe set field by name. Specify the target field. So the target field will actually be, in this case, $link. Let's see if it works. Okay. Because it's usually a, and then the calculated result will be, in this case, what we want it to do is we want it to get current date. Get the current date. So get current time, get current date. There's our get current date. Now, if you want it to be a timestamp, that's fine, but get current date is just fine. And then from here, you need to go back to, so you would need to just go to original layout. So if we just double click, go to layout original, and then halt the script. Because that's all you needed to do. But you may want to change that because this will give you problems if you accidentally clicked on the window and then you accidentally clicked off the window. It will show that it was paid if it wasn't paid. So you may have to come up here to the very beginning and add an if. And then I'm going to just put that if right here, and I'm going to put this number 2. Oops, stop doing that. Put this number 2 underneath. So I'm going to say if is empty. That's like one of my favorite things in the world. If is empty, and this is amount paid, then we just want it to do nothing. Halt the script, right? So we'll just say if is empty, halt the script. Pretty simple. So it stops it. So now if it is empty, so if you click on it, it's not going to do anything. So if because like in this case, let's just click all of our OKs. In this case, if I was to click on this field and then click out of it, why is it locking me in? Because it just halted the script. Edit layout. Oh, come on. What are you doing? It stopped it. Okay, so scripts. Script workspace. Let's get into our paid date because it's froze it. So let's just say, let's click here. Go to original layout, halt script, Control S, save it, say OK. Because for some odd reason, it doesn't want to go anywhere or do anything. Scripts. If it's empty, go to original layout. I don't know why it is doing that. All right, let's change. Let's make some changes. So let's say if not. Let's not do that. Let's say if not is empty. And this field is property amount paid. Then we want it to set a variable. And we want it to, I don't know why it's frozen the window, because that just doesn't make any sense. Why my script is not working. I'm just going to add all of these things up here. And then we'll just add, I'm just going to get rid of that. Control S. Tools. Script debugger. Okay. So if not is empty, F6 I believe steps us in. Halt script. So it's not going to let me go to anywhere else. It's locked, dang thing. So you can do, there's a couple of things that you can do. One thing that you can do is you can change what the script actually does. So script, if you could just go to script, you can actually go to that workspace. So go to your original layout, halt script. We can tell it to, we'll have to tell it to get off of that field is what we'll have to do. So let's do, let's type in go to field. And the field that we want it to go to is a target field, so we'll just specify, and we'll go to property location. Where is it? Renter's first name. Let's just say renter's first name. We'll just call it good. And then we'll do the same thing down here, go to field. I don't know why it's doing this to me, but that is really kind of ridiculous. That it would do that, but it is, so we'll control S. So now if we click off of it, it'll go to a different field, and then it will allow us to move from point A to point B. So in this case, we're going to say, we'll go ahead and we'll say 625. And then we'll click off of it and see what happens. So now when we go back to our property inc, this should be filled, and it is. It's filled. It's probably pretty hard for you guys to see, but there's actually a date printed on there. And then, so what we can do is in the next one, we can deal with a lot of the other functions that we need to deal with. But in this one, I just wanted you to show that what you can do is you can create this window so that what we'll do with this is this button is, why is it not, okay. We click this, we will tell it to button setup and its name and what we want it to do. So we're going to want it to actually perform a script, and then that script, we'll work on that script next time, but what we want it to do is we want it to go to that place. We want it to look for that particular number, the 101. We want it to look for the property, search the property, find the property, and list the property. And then everything will go from here to the window that we were just on. So what we'll do is we'll tell it to perform a script, and of course there is none, so we'll have to add one, and we'll just say property link, and this one is going to, what it's going to do is it's going to we need to set a variable. The very first thing that we need to do is set a variable, and we'll put let's just call this number. Easy to do. And specify that number needs to be get where is it? Get active, get, oh, my brain cell is like fried this morning. I don't know. It's called get something. Cancel. Script parameter. That's what it's called. It's called get script parameter. So link, or what do we call this? Number, and then specify, and then this one is going to get script parameter. I don't know why I could not think of that right off the top of my head. Now sometimes this does not work, and if it doesn't work, we'll have to add a box. We'll have to add a field, and we'll just call it script parameter, and we'll just put it anywhere on this over here. We'll just put it anywhere over there, and then it will grab it, and then it'll put it there, and then we'll grab the number, and then we'll take it, and we'll blah 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 blah. We'll go on from there. But sometimes it takes more than just a 2-step process. It's a 3-step process kind of thing. But so we've got our script parameter, and now what we need to do is we need to go to, because that's the only thing we need to know, right? Is what that variable actually is. So now we need to go to the layout, and the layout needs to be that layout that we were on, which is the list data. And then we will enter find mode. It's pretty simple. I mean, these are pretty basic. I don't usually pause when I do in enter find mode, and I usually don't specify the thing, the field. So, and then we'll set a field, and that field will be the base data. And that field is going to be our property code. And the calculator result is going to be $number. Because what we're going to do is, in this script parameter, as you guys can see, there's right here it says optional script parameter. So in that script parameter, that's where you're going to put that code. So this code will be like 1,000. And it should take us like right to where we need to go. And if it doesn't work, like I said, I'll show you guys the other way of doing it. And then, now that we've set the field, we need to just basically perform the find and halt the script. So we'll perform find and halt the script. Because we're now where we want to be doing what we want to do. So we don't want to make any changes to that. We're just going to go straight to that data. And this data would be 1, 1, 2, 3, 1,000. There's our script parameter. So now if we exit this layout and we press this button, it should take us to this code. It should take us right to the one that we're looking for. Without any, there should be nothing else there, just that one. So now when you click on it, you can say, okay, this person, they paid their rent, and you can, and this is where that date thingy comes in. So you would, and we didn't add it. I'm Space Cadet guy, but so if we edit our layout, we can actually field picker our date, which is like down here at the bottom. I know I put a date link in here, right? Did I not? I thought I did. Okay, so I obviously didn't put a date, but we do need a date so that you can see the date. And don't worry, these, by the time we get done, you're going to have so much information in here, you guys are going to be like, what is Tim thinking? There's too much information. Too much information. But what we're going to do next time, guys, what we're going to do next time is we'll go ahead and we'll put in the date so you guys will know, because that's kind of a big deal. When you get to this page, it's going to, like I said, it's going to, everything else will be gone. The only thing you're going to see is what's here. And then we're going to have a window or a thing right here, which is what we'll do really super quick. I'll show you guys how to do that. We're just going to create a button. And we're just going to say menu or home. I think home is probably the best. And we want it to perform a script or do a single step. A single step is fine for this one, guys. Let's just tell it to go to the layout, and the layout that we want it to go to is Property Inc. We'll just say OK. We don't need it to do anything else currently at this moment. So now if we exit the layout, we can go straight back to our home. Ta-da! Pretty simple. And then when we do like our 102 or 103 or 104, so this tells me right on the front page, that this property on 3/9/2018, as a matter of fact, let me do this so you guys can actually read it. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to make this bigger. Make it 18. Make this one bigger. 18. Because I'm like half blind anyway, so I need to be able to see what I'm doing. Okay. So now if I exit my layout, now it's very large. You guys can now, I'm sure you guys can now see it. So 3/9/2018, that's today's date. So it says this person paid today. So when you're going through your list, you're going through these, you'll know right at the very beginning, you'll say, this one was paid, this one was paid, this one was paid, this one was paid, this one was paid. Because they'll all say the date. And then what you can do is you can have a clear button if you want to, like we talked about in the very, very, very beginning of the show. You can have a clear button that creates a loop that will go through every single one of those records and will clear them all out so that it'll set them all at 0 if they are less than 30 days behind. But this is kind of really cool because it gives you an aspect, it gives you an opportunity to see, to visually see right here, right now, what properties you have, when was the last property paid, like instantaneously. You can go straight to this property right now. You just click on it, and there will be a date here. And I do apologize. I had thought that I did that. We can certainly do that. Manage the database. I could have swore that I had put a date on here, but apparently I did not. Date. And now if we go into our field picker, we can go to our date, bring it up here, and put it right there. And what we want to do is we want to, in our script, FYI, in our script, what we want to do is, if you guys know, remember, go to your scripts in your script workspace and go to the paid date one. Remember, this is the paid date one that we were on. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to, when we come back here, we can tell it to basically set a date. So that's kind of really cool. So go to the original layout, which would be this layout. And then instead of saying go to field, we can actually say set field. And the field that we want to set is, we're going to specify it. It's going to be the date field. And the result is going to be, all you have to do is get that, come down here and just say get current date. Get current date. Okay, so now this one where it says go to field, just delete that one. You don't even need it anymore now that we've done this, because now we're telling it to do something else. I don't know what the deal was with that scripting, the problem with why it wouldn't let you off of it, but no big deal. We've got it figured out. We're good to go. And so now when someone does make this payment, let's close this down. Actually, what it should do is it should give us scripts workspace. There is something that we forgot to do. We need to go go back to this, go to layout, and then say set field, and then the target field is going to be the amount paid. And the calculated result is going to be the quotation marks. Because what we're doing is we're clearing it. Now we can use this data any way that we want to. So later on what we can do is when we get into, and we'll get in there, I swear we will, we'll get into there, but later on when we get into the actual part, you know, we started building it, we'll build a file. We'll actually be able to get in and we'll take this data from the amount paid and we'll store it so people will know this was the amount that was paid on this day. And you'll just keep a log or a track of that stuff if that's what you guys want to do. If not, don't worry about it. So now if we exit the layout and we come over here, we can type in 625, and once we click off of it, it should fill in the date. So it's going to fill in the date. Let's clear out the field, and if we go home, our date is filled again, so we're good to go. So ta-da, we actually did it. Showed you guys how to do that. I'm sorry it took me 1 hour to actually make that happen, but it's all that talking and the explanation part that kind of gets you. So as you can see, now we can actually keep track of the apartments and or the rental properties, and you know exactly the last time they were paid. And we've also been able to identify that we can split them up. So if you have several different landowners, or let's say you're the only landowner, whatever the case might be, but you can split them up. So if you have like North Jonestown, South Jonestown, West Jonestown, if you have different or you have them in different cities, like I know some cities in Kansas, they're a stone's throw away from each other, but they're different cities. So you can do geographic locations if you want to, but you now have the ability to split them up so that you can better understand them. And you have at a glance, you're on your home page, you can tell this property was paid, the rent was paid on 3/9/2018. So when you start looking through here and you say, oh, this one was not paid, you can go to this property, find out who the renter is. That's the whole point. If you go here and you click on this, you know what property it is, the renter's first name and their last name. And that's, if you want to put their phone number in there, you can do that too. So now you can go in and you can say, like when you're here and you see this property and it hasn't been paid and it's already the 5th of the month, you click on this, you call them and you tell them, hey, your rent is due, or you send them a letter or whatever the case might be. But whatever information you need for contact or whatever the case might be. And the cool thing is here, what you can do too is if you wanted to, you could just create a button. You could just say paid, but that kind of like, instead of having this where you actually have to put the money, the sum in there, you could create a button that just says paid. But remember, you can have a list of them, ding, 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 like a bunch of them. But if you want to, you can have a button that just says paid, and you can press it, and then the date will come on, and it might make it easier for you. You're still going to run the exact same script. FYI, you're going to run the exact same script as what we just wrote. You're just going to tie it to a button instead of tying it to a, like this, we tied it to a script trigger. So instead of having it a script trigger, it would just be a button. Either one would work just fine. But you guys did learn how to use this link, which is a big deal. This link, we're going to need some more of these links later on. That's the reason why I haven't filled in all this space. But we're going through it. So anyway, guys, you guys are amazing. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much. Don't forget to subscribe. If there's anything that you need to know or you want to know or you're thinking about doing, we were going to do some how to use for home stuff. But there's so many uses. If you have this program, the bad thing is you're stuck to one base computer. So you have to have it on one base computer. But as you know, you can share that with there's certain programs. You can get Filemaker Go on any Android device, any Apple device. I use Apple devices. They're just so much easier because it's actually developed by Apple company. So Filemaker is. So if you go ahead and you have those, you can get it. You can like go to FMP Host, and they will host your solution for you for $20 a month or whatever the case is, and you can get that data from anywhere in the world. So let's say you have properties globally. You could be anywhere in the world and run this solution if you want to. You could be anywhere in the world and get that data instantaneously. So if you're knocking on John Smith's door, you can say, hey, you did not pay your rent. I see it right here. And then you could fly to LA and say, hey, Betty Smith, you didn't pay your rent. I see it right here. I mean, whatever the case is, whatever your needs are. But I think this program that we're developing is probably one of the best solutions I can think of, just like right off the top of my head, to create a system or to have a solution where you can at a glance tell if properties have been paid, and then be able to go to that property and or any other properties, go to the ones that haven't been paid, and have instant access to the data, like their phone number. So you can call them and say, hey, your rent hasn't been paid. Please pay your rent now. Or if you didn't want to, you can always have like the property location way more defined, so that you can actually write them a letter or send them a letter saying pay your rent now, whatever the case might be. Most of the time it's pretty simple. You just call them and say, you know, pay your rent. Of course, most of the time people know they need to pay their rent, and if they don't pay their rent, they're going to be out. So hopefully this is of some help to you guys, and thank you guys so much for watching me. I will see you guys in the next show. We'll probably do another one of these in a couple of days, just so we can kind of catch up, because I know it's been a week since I did my last one, but we'll probably do another one. And on the very next one, we are going to deal with this other property area too, where we have, where are we at? We're missing this one. So we're going to tie all that into this, which is totally cool, because we now have apartment 101. And as you see, location, street, it changes. It will change it as you do them. So we want to make sure that we keep everything correct in your mind. Till next time, guys, thank you very much for joining me. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Until then, bye. Thanks, Vanas, for being here. See you guys. Lots of time.